Technology has almost become our life support. Without it, it seems that the world would stop spinning and society would fall. We spend most of our time glued to our gadgets, being told that we need to buy the next best tech that is more powerful, faster, and has new features. We hear news about the development of AI, nanochips, a future where we can upload our consciousness to the cloud and achieve immortality. But do we have any choice in the matter? Or will technology be the end of humanity as we know it? Welcome to the Transhumanism Agenda. Transhumanism is the belief that the human race can evolve beyond its current limitations, mental and physical limitations, through the means of science and technology. Transhumanism is a philosophical belief, it's a philosophy, and it's fairly recent too. For example, in the Principles of Entropy, which was written in 1990, it encapsulates the core values and beliefs of transhumanism. And allegedly, this was the first explicit document of transhumanism and the concept of transhumanism as we know it today. A definition of transhumanism itself is the intellectual and cultural movement that affirms the possibility and desirability of fundamentally improving the human condition through applied reason, especially by developing and making widely available technologies to eliminate aging, physical and psychological capacities. So the main belief of transhumanism is to improve the human race, or remove its limitations so that humanity can evolve into something much greater, much better, that we can essentially live forever. We won't be limited by disease. We will become post-human. We will become more than human. We will essentially become the equivalent of gods, which some may say. These barriers to humanity will be removed through technology and science. It is believed that all of this can be achieved through science and technology, which includes drugs, nanotechnology, biochips, cloning, bionics, artificial intelligence, and so much more. We've already seen examples of these with Elon Musk's development of the Neuralink.
You want to have a device that you can basically put in your head and feel and look totally normal, but it solves some important problem in your brain or spine.
We've also seen this with the rise in microchips, people being encouraged to take an interest in getting chipped, which will make your life so much easier.
I have 2 microchip implants, one on the right and one on the left. I got the micro implants because I wanted to be part of the future.
The same with artificial intelligence, which is present in most devices today, such as even now smart TVs, anything like that, Alexa, Siri, all of these things are artificial intelligence. However, the main concern of transhumanism, it seems as though there is no real choice on the matter. It is expected that everyone will be pushing for this agenda, for wanting to become more than just human, for wanting to link up with machines. If you didn't want to take part in this, well, I'm afraid you don't have much choice, as this is something that is being encouraged on all of the masses altogether as one. It is essentially seeking the end of humanity as we know it today to evolve into something much better. So if humanity was to get wiped out, that's not an issue because it means we can rebuild ourselves into something greater. Transhumanism is only one part of the puzzle, as once we evolve into something greater, we become post-human and we enter post-humanism. Post-humanism is exceeding the limitations that define less desirable aspects of the human condition. So this includes aging, this includes suffering from disease and death itself. Post-humans would no longer suffer from these problems that plague humanity. This in itself is described as morphological freedom, where humans will have greater physical capability and freedom of form. Post-humanists believe that we will have higher IQ and better cognitive abilities. We will be supercomputers on legs. We will be all of the superheroes from sci-fi movies, basically the greatest that we can ever be. Transhumanism and posthumanism are not really just philosophies. Some would say that they are agendas, that they are part of a greater plan that does indeed want to be achieved. and many people do not realise that this may be taking place. To some, transhumanism sounds wonderful, a life where we can live merged with technology, a life where we are not bound to this earth by disease, by hunger. Our consciousness may even be uploaded to the cloud and we can live forever as a human cyborg of sorts. But let's pick that apart a little bit. The real aims of the transhumanism agenda is essentially manufacturing human evolution, engineering humans, removing divinity itself from humanity, so humanity will outgrow usefulness. The divine will be separated from humans, and we will no longer have our natural selves. Humans will become machines. It will be impossible to differentiate between each of us. Scientists themselves will be worshipped like gods for being able to create such technology and develop humanity. They'll be seen as saviors, which in itself is false worship and idolatry. And the main aim of all of this is to gain more control over the masses themselves. If everyone is like a machine and everyone consents, whether they actually consent or not, to becoming one with technology, then we can easily be manipulated.
We have only bits and pieces of information, but what we know for certain is that at some point in the early 21st century, all of mankind was united in celebration. We marveled at our own magnificence as we gave birth to AI.
AI? You mean artificial intelligence?
A singular consciousness that spawned an entire race of machines. We don't know who struck first, us or them, but we know that it was us that scorched the sky. At the time, they were dependent on solar power, and it was believed that they would be unable to survive without an energy source as abundant as the sun. Throughout human history, we have been dependent on machines to survive. Fate, it seems, is not without a sense of irony.
Let's say you uploaded your consciousness into the cloud like we have mentioned. Who runs the cloud? It will be those big tech companies. And once they have you, you're technically trapped in a machine. Before we delve deeper into the agenda itself, it's time we take a look a little bit at the history of transhumanism very briefly. The term transhumanism is believed to have many different origins. However, the term itself wasn't really fully explored properly until very recently in Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy in 1312. Transhumanere was first used, and its definition was to pass beyond the human. But this usage was in spiritual terms. It wasn't referring to science or technology or becoming one with machines that we would assume transhumanism actually means today. In 1935, T.S. Eliot used the term transhumanized in his book The Cocktail Party, and the term was used in a way to represent illumination rather than technologically mediated transformation. Again, the usage was not referred to machines as such or becoming one with machines, but had very different usage. But as you can see, the term itself still does have connections to becoming more than just human, becoming greater and better. And finally, in 1957, Julian Huxley had a chapter titled Transhumanism in his book New Bottles for New Wine. The usage of itself was explained in the book, stating man remaining man but transcending himself by realizing new possibilities of and for his human nature. So here is where transhumanism is really supposed to be rooted. The word itself was used directly in a way of becoming more than human, transcending, being greater, becoming something new. However, Huxley did not develop this meaning into philosophy. The usage actually came to light after the term was independently coined for the transhumanist movement. Additionally, it could be argued that this search for transhumanism and this philosophy itself, although not directly seen as a philosophy, further in the past, there was indeed a search for something greater to evolve humanity into almost gods. For example, with the search for the Philosopher's Stone or the Elixir of Life, it could be interpreted as a form of magical technology capable of transmuting elements, as it was believed that the Elixir of Life and the Philosopher's Stone would cure all disease and grant the person using them immortality. Moving forward to today, transhumanism is a philosophy that is held by many elites of this world. There are many people who seem to follow this belief that humans should become more than just humans. We should become more than just flesh and blood. Whilst there may be some who see this because they do have good intentions for humanity, there are many of those who see transhumanism as simply a way to control the population and push forward a New World Order agenda. How would this be brought about though? Transhumanism is part of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is a concept that is being heavily pushed by the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum is essentially a gathering of the elites where they decide what agendas to push against humanity, the future of humanity to benefit the elites and control the population and manipulate what happens. But publicly, they state that they are an international organisation for public-private cooperation. The World Economic Forum itself was started in 1971, according to them, and it's a not-for-profit foundation, according to them, with its headquarters located in Geneva, Switzerland. It's supposed to be independent, impartial, and not tied to any special interests. So they say. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is described as a new chapter in human development, enabled by extraordinary technology advances commensurate with those of the First, Second, and Third Industrial Revolutions. The Fourth Industrial Revolution represents entirely new ways in which technology becomes embedded within societies and even our human bodies. Examples include genome editing, new forms of machine intelligence, breakthrough materials, and approaches to governance that rely on cryptographic methods such as the blockchain. The World Economic Forum described the Fourth Industrial Revolution as something very desirable.
The Fourth Industrial Revolution is that the innovations we are seeing today in terms of artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, cloud computing, advanced robotics, and many others, together constitute a new phase in human development, on par or even exceeding previous industrial revolutions in scale and impact. COVID-19, if anything, has accelerated this ongoing industrial revolution.
Put a sock in it. No one cares.
It means that the whole world will beat poverty. No one will be hungry. The world itself will become greener. We will use green technology. We will all be interfaced as one big society and be connected to one another. The state itself will look after us, and part of this is using these technologies that they have described. It all sounds like a great utopia to some, but others do believe that there are nefarious objectives and agendas behind this push for transhumanism. The first revolution, which began in the 1700s, used water and steam power to mechanize production. The second, between the 1800s and the First World War, progressed to electric power to create the mass production of goods. The third used electronics and information technology to begin the process of automating production. And finally, the fourth revolution seeks to build on the third and is dubbed as a digital revolution. Schwab describes this as a fusion of technologies that embodies the physical, digital, and biological spheres. Klaus Schwab wants humanity to evolve into machines. He thinks that this link between flesh and metal is something to be seen as a wonderful opportunity for us to see past our limitations. When in reality, it's not really about that whatsoever. They could not care less. Klaus Schwab is the head of the World Economic Forum. He is essentially the director. You may have seen him around, and he has spoke openly about Build Back Better and the Great Reset.
Some would say to build back better, we would say to really have a great reset.
He wants the world to move towards a true global civilization the destruction of society itself into one huge society. There will no longer be smaller societies dotted around the globe. Everyone will be as one. There will be no way to differentiate between cities, towns, countries themselves. Everything will be controlled under one government, and soon under technologies that have more power than we currently believe we have now. He sees that this fourth industrial revolution provides potential to robotize humanity and thus compromise our traditional sources of meaning: work, community, family, and identity. All of these traditions, beliefs, and values that we hold close to our heart will be no more. They are seen as very outdated to the World Economic Forum. If we have values, then we have morals, and this is something that isn't very good to the World Economic Forum because it means that we are individual people, and as individuals we can think for ourselves, which again is not a very good thing. If we remove those values, we remove the traditions, and we remove the norms in society, such as having a family, being religious, having an identity, being able to think for yourself, going to work, doing the things you love. If that is removed, then we can be molded into whatever these elites would like. And part of that does involve being molded into machines that simply do as they're told. If the public knew that this was happening and the government and these elites just came forward and said, look, we want to push forward with this idea we have for transhumanism, it means that you won't really have an identity, you will own nothing, you won't even own yourself, as we will own the technology which you implant within you. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a really good idea? The majority will probably say no, because why would anyone want to be controlled by a chip within them? Why would anyone want to agree to an agenda that means that they no longer are in touch with their natural selves? To get around this, the elites use social engineering. Social engineering is a way to manipulate the masses. It's to engineer society to how you want it to be. It's to implement change, force change in a way that people don't really notice that it is taking place. Edward Bernays, in his book Propaganda, which was written in the 1930s, described this as a method of mind control. He said that the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organised habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are moulded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. Social engineering is achieved through many means. It's achieved through predictive programming, so we'll see something ahead of time on TV, in a movie, maybe even read it in the newspaper, a little hint of what's coming, so that when the change finally does occur, we won't be as freaked out about it and we'll just accept it. We'll blindly accept it because subconsciously we knew that that was going to take place. Predictive programming can take place, as I said, in a variety of different mediums. It can take place on TV, and it actively does.
Oh, my juice loosener's never gonna come.
Hey Dad, this came for you in the mail.
Mother, get an extra special hug ready. I bought you a new juicer. Good Lord, flu germs entering every orifice in my head.
It can take place in movies. For example, movies about pandemics. Movies, in this case, about AI and becoming one with machine.
Hello, I'm David. I can do almost anything that could possibly be asked of me.
Social engineering is also achieved through politics, celebrities, public figures that all stand amongst us and in front of us, above us even, telling us what to believe, telling us what is acceptable, and encourage us to think a certain way.
It's really important that people of all ages get the jab!
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael Caine. I've just had a vaccine for COVID. It didn't hurt. Not many people know that.
Celebrities themselves hold a lot of power, as many people nowadays idolize celebrities and see them as wonderful human beings who should be worshipped, when in reality they are part of a system to enforce change and force change on the people in a way that they will just blindly accept it.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility for every unchecked moment.
For every time it was easier to ignore than to call it out for what it was.
I take responsibility. Black people are being slaughtered in the streets, killed in their own homes. These are our brothers and sisters,
our friends.
In regards to politics that I've mentioned, giving the public this facade of choice, of democracy, that they get to choose who they elect into power, that these people will make changes that will benefit the public, is a form of social engineering. Because in reality, the leaders are selected ahead of time and chosen, put in place to enact the changes of those higher up.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Those elites who want to push a certain agenda, in this case a transhumanism agenda, onto the people. Now, social engineering is a much greater topic, and we've only just scratched the surface as to what transhumanism is, what it's about, why it's taking place, how it will be achieved, by what means it will be achieved.
When you enhance the brain, when you make the human body full of sensors, these sensors are capable of collecting data. So these are new, exciting technologies.
There's so much to delve into on this topic. Join me next time as we explore social engineering and the means in which social engineering is achieved, examples, and then you can decide for yourself whether you think the transhumanism agenda is taking place, and if you can notice any signs of programming, any clear evidence of mass manipulation. Thank you for joining me today, guys, and I can't wait to see you in part 2. Hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day. Stay awake, stay true, and stay blessed. And as always, fly high, fear less.